Hey guys, welcome to the session. And today we are going to discuss very interesting topic about the Zscaler, and that is about the Zscaler identity service or services, right? What is a IDP? What is the identity services? And what is the key role in the Zscaler overall provisioning, deployment, troubleshooting? How this identity services is going to play a very vital role. Okay, that also we have to understand, right? So as we have, like you can see, GIA tenant access, right? And based on this GIA tenant access, we can view administration like how the identity management is going to be happen, right? So we have this authentication section. In these authentication sections, we have the authentication settings, user management. We have the identity proxy settings as well. We'll try to discuss what is the identity proxy as well. And also we have the cloud services API security. So we'll try to understand step by step. We'll see what all we are going to understand today class. But most important, the authentication setting. So whenever you just go and start with the Zscaler, right? You must have to understand the identity providers, right? And this is the first step, right? Without doing the identity provider settings, or might be the LDAP settings, or might be the local hosted database settings, you cannot provision any user on the Zscaler platform, and those user cannot access any of the application. Because also you know that as the packet flow, the first step always going to happen just to validate the user identity. Means authentication must is going to be happen. Let me figure out my PPT and let me see if it is available here. About the packet flow, quickly we'll see that, not much in deep, but let me see if I can quickly find that. So I can show you guys what I'm trying to say here. I don't think it is available here. Let me try in another PPT. And let me see if I can find it. Right. Yeah, so probably we can see it. So whenever we see about the web traffic flow for the Zscaler, right? The first step about the user, how the user is going to be authenticated. So you can see in this particular, whenever you just want to do any kind of the application accessibility, the first step you have to go to authenticate yourself. And this is about the identity providers, identity services, which is going to use here. So this is the first step you have to understand. And then we can see how the traffic forwarding is going to happen. What is the URL filtering, how the web filtering, application filtering, DLP, another advanced feature you want to understand that also you can understand it. All right. So I hope you guys understand the agenda of the today class. All right. So we'll try to discuss more about this first step, and this is the day zero stage. So you can see, welcome to identity provider, and we have to discuss the very first step, how the step by step identity provisioning is going to be happen, right? So let me talk about in the digital world, because we keep using the digital devices, and the major challenge is here we have to make sure the information of the user, basically the user information, that should be safe. And also at the same time, we have to make sure the right user or right people can access the right resources, or you can say the right applications. Means if I am the user, let's suppose in company have the multiple users, some are going to belong the HR, some are going to belong in the IT department, some are going to belong in the sales department. In company, might be the applications are hosted in data center, let's say your data center, and we have just one subnet. And this subnet could be just taken in one example, 172.16.10.0/24. And in this large subnet, we have the multiple applications. Some are going to belong to the HR, some are going to be belong to the sales, some are going to belong to the IT. Okay, but they all are going to belong in the same subnet. So someone having the IP .10, .11, .12, .13, .14, .15, .16. So there are different IPs. So if I'm not going to use a normal means I'm going to use a normal authentication or legacy authentication way. So probably these HR people also can able to reach this IT people applications. The IT also can able to reach the HR application. That is definitely not required. HR should only able to access those applications which belong to the HR department. IT should only going to access those applications which is going to belong to the IT department. Sales also, sales tool we have like sales navigator, different sales portal, right? We have CRM tool. So that should be only accessed by the sales people. Why that should be accessed by the HR and IT? So that's why the most important is we have to come out from the legacy background. At the same time, we have to think about how my application should be accessible with the right user with the right access. Even let's suppose HR having the multiple kind of the role. Some are people are the trainee, like the associate level of the role. Some are like the executive. Some are like the manager. So they all should not have the similar kind of the role to access the workday. Let's suppose there is a workday, one of the HR portal applications. So some might be having the view only access, some might be having the read write access, some might be having a super admin access. So also it's very important, right user can access the right applications with the right privilege. It should not like you can just working on the any level and you're just going to access anything and you can make any changes. No, this is not going to happen. So this is what Zscaler is going to bring the services, and that is known as the identity services. By help of these identity services, we have the multiple flavor here. And most important, we are going to discuss about the SAML and SCIM. So these are the two things we are going to focus in these 2D sessions. In addition of that, what other alternative options available and basically they are recommended or not, that also we are going to discuss about, right? So I hope you guys understand the agenda of today class. So let's start the session. So as I mentioned that, right, in today's digital world, right, we have to make sure the right people can access the right applications with the right access. This is the key concept, right people, right applications, right access. So in this particular session, right, we are going to focus all possible way to discuss how the authentication is going to be happen from any users. Means if let's suppose you bring the Zscaler services for your company. So how this integration is going to be happen and what is the step-by-step process is going to be happen. So we have the basically four type of authentication. If I talk about, we have the first authentication that you might be heard about that LDAP authentication, right? This is the first way of the doing the authentication. Another way, very simplest way or easiest way, hosted user database authentication. This is the second way and easiest way to just do the authentication. Most famous and recommended by the Zscaler, that is a SAML based authentication. So these are the three way we have to understand how the authentication is going to happen. Another way for the cloud application. These are for the normal application, like any application hosted for my data center, my private data center, public data center. But we have some kind of the cloud-based application. Means SaaS application, basically, we can talk about, not specifically for the cloud-based, basically the SaaS-based application. For that, we have the special feature in the Zscaler that is known as a Zscaler as a proxy, that is known as the identity proxy. Okay. So that is the third thing. This is basically for the SaaS app. What is a SaaS app? Basically, you can just take in a great example, Office 365, right? One is SaaS application, Dropbox, right? This SaaS application, we have the box.com, right? This is a SaaS application. We have the Workday. This is the also SaaS application, etc. So if I want to authenticate these kind of the application, then how my authentication is going to be look like from the Zscaler point of view. So these are the multiple way, like how the user is going to be authenticated based on the LDAP authentication. How my application is going to be authenticated, that is based on the identity provider. So these first three are basically going to use for the user authentication, not the application authentication. So the first three flavors, the LDAP based, hosted database, or SAML based. Scheme is going to come between the SAML. So they are going to work together. We have to understand the basic difference between the SAML and scheme. Okay, why basically we are going to use the SAML and why we are going to use this scheme as well. So both are the like key pillars and we have to understand very wisely, right? Because people are always confused, like both are the same thing. No, this is not the same thing. They have a different purpose. Okay. So I'll make the very easiest way. I'll try my put very easiest way so you can understand. So first three are basically the user authentication and last one is the application authentication, how it is going to happen. So let's start, right? So if I talk about the first LDAP authentication, what is my LDAP authentications? So if I talk about the LDAP authentication, so this is the first way where you can just think about, you just integrate your AD servers, which is known as the domain controller. So your AD server is going to be integrated based on the AD server integration. You are going to get all database visible on the Zscaler tenant, right? And based on that Zscaler tenant or database integrations, you are going to get information. Like if once your AD is going to be integrated, right? You are going to get all user informations here, right? Your group, your department, everything is going to be visible here. And based on that, you are just going to, create the policies, right? You are going to allow which type of the application is going to be accessed by means what kind of the role and responsibility you want to define, that is going to be possible with the help of this particular LDAP based authentication. So this is the like building your own identity service that is your hosted in your database, right? Means your LDAP team is going to manage, means AD server team is going to manage all database. And based on that, right now my LDAP server is off, else I can definitely show you all how it is going to look like. Let me show you AD server user and group. If you just search about that, see if you just go in the images, right? So probably you can find this kind of the AD servers we find, and based on that AD server, you can create the multiple user and you can create the multiple group. And these AD server is directly going to integrate with this Zscaler tenant, and your all information, whatever you're going to create any folder, it is going to populate it there. And based on that, your synchronization is going to be happen. And based on that synchronization, your all database is going to populate it, and your any user request is going to come for the any application. Based on that, user authentication is going to be happen. Whatever role, read, write, any other role you're going to define, that all is going to be possible here. So this is your AD based authentication. I hope that much is clear to everyone. So simplest way you can just, but that is also not recommended for the Zscaler. We can do that, but this is not way to basically do the authentication. Okay, means we can do that, but this is not recommended. Now the second way of doing the authentication is, what is the second way of doing the authentication? That is, we have the hosted database, right? So you don't have to worry about additional AD servers, right? You don't have to worry about the SAML integration, scheme integration. You just have to host your database on GIA tenant itself. Means GIA tenant, whatever we have. Let's suppose I have the GIA tenant. So I will simply import all my user database. Let's suppose this is my group. So if I download this group, this file is going to be downloaded, and I can find this CSV file have the lot of department. You can see the contractor, CrowdStrike, engineering, and a lot of department is there. Similarly, you can see a lot of users are here. And based on that users, you can just see and you can do a lot of things. So you can see a lot of department are here, a lot of like API users, sales users. So we can create the users, we can upload. Right now, we don't have the right access here. We have the only read only access. So I cannot show how it is going to be uploaded, but you're going to get an option here and you can just put the information like with a CSV file, which is just going to download it. And based on this downloaded CSV file, you're just going to put the information in the CSV file. You just have to import that. And then it is going to, your job is going to be done. So whatever the username, password you're going to create it, based on that authentication is going to happen. So one of the simplest way, another simplest way, like expanding your user authentication based on your hosted database, which is going to be just apply on the your GIA tenant. And this is going to alternative of the LDAP, SAML and SCIM, right? But why we should not use this tool? So basically, if we talk about the modern like security, always you have to work on the single sign-on request, right? Also, we have to take care about the multi-factor authentication. Why these are very important? Why it is important? Let's suppose I am the user. So I have to log in multiple application at the same time. And always I have to put my username and password. That's like very troublesome for the people. Means I have the 15 application, 50 application, 100 of application on a daily basis I have to log in. Even I am using my hosted database or my using the AD authentication. Every time I have to type my password. If there are two-factor authentication enabled, then again I have to get some additional OTP and all. So we have to do that all. So that is again a problem for me. And it's like not a good practice to just meet the latest kind of the digital transformation where we are talking about the SSO, right? Single sign-on. So that's why the LDAP and the local hosted are not recommended by the Zscaler. It's okay for the small organization in the POC phase. You can just test this all. But if you have the wider organization, large organization, mid-range of the organization, you have the very versatile kind of the application hosted in different location, and you want to access this, then it is not for you. So what is the best way to do your all authentication? So the third way and most popular way for the user authentication is the SAML. And this also going to work with, it is going to use the feature SCIM. So what is the SAML and what is SCIM? That also we have to understand. So if I talk about the SAML, then SAML is the one of the, you can just think about protocol. SCIM is also protocol. They are the open standard protocol, right? Means it can be used by the any of the vendor. It's not like just for the Zscaler, and it's not by the only Prisma Access, or like we can talk about the NetSpoke, any SASE vendors. So SAML basically known as the security assertion markup, sorry, language. This is your SAML. Okay. So what is this scheme? So if I just talk about this scheme, that is known as your system for cross domain identity MGMT management, right? This is known as the scheme. So these are the two things, right? SAML is known as a security assessment markup language. This is just programming language you can just think about, right? And based on this security assessment markup language, they just validate the users. One is your service provider, one is your identity provider. This two thing means SAML is going to use two parameter. One is your service providers. You can just think about another pair of the things is going to work as an identity provider. Sorry, identity providers. So these are the two things they are going to leverage, and based on that two things, they are going to authenticate the users. So what is the identity provider and what is the service provider? That also we have to understand. So you'll understand what is identity provider and what is the service providers. So I'll definitely make you understand. But first understand why basically we use the SAML. This is the most important we have to understand. What is the requirement to use the SAML, right? So if I talk about why we need to use a SAML, so SAML is just, you can think about, you have must be seen the TechAct server, AD server. Why they use? Just for the authentication and authorization, right? We have to do authentication, right? Means what is authentication? And let me just put the authorization. Authorization, right? So there are two things. See, if we just correlate with the AAA, right? AAA is might be you work on the AAA, right? uh, in router configuration, in ICE configuration, in switch configuration, we talk about TACACS configuration, AAA configuration, right? So similar in AAA, here we have the 2A, means authorizations and authentication. So authentication is going to, let's suppose I am the user, I want to connect some application. I want to open a www.google.com. Just giving the example. So might be google.com have the username and password. Means you have to put first username and the password. So if I have to put username and the password, some place this username password need to go to just validate whether this is the correct user or not. So this is just for the authentication. Means my username and password is going to be authenticated. So this is your authentication. So what is the authorizations? Authorization, let's suppose after accessing the that particular, just take an example, Google Drive. Okay. So you just put your username and password. The authentication engine just authenticated, yeah, this is the right user. Now, if you are the right user, there are multiple files. You can download, you can upload, you can add it. So there is a lot of roles here. And you can just think about read, write kind of the roles. So if I am the user, my authorization has been set only the read. So who is going to check that? So there is another engine to just check the user XYZ have the read only access or the write only access both. And ABC user have the read only access or write access only, write access as well. So based on his role, right? Based on his role, he is going to either read only the file or might be download of the file or might be upload of the file. So read, write, access as well. Just think about the router, L1 engineer, L2 engineer, L3 engineer. So L1 can just, based on his role, based on his authorizations, he can just view the configuration. L2 can view the configuration, can do changes as well for some sections based on their privilege. L3 can do all the changes. So this is how authorization is going to happen. So these two function is going to done by your SAML. I hope everyone clear about that, right? If you're watching for the YouTube, if you have the question, just put your question in the chat. So I'll try to take that particular, questions as well. So this is how SAML is going to do the authorization. So SAML used for the authentications and authorization. And based on these authentication and authorization, SAML is going to allow users to log once or multiple applications without putting their credentials. What does means? Means once we are going to authenticate it. Let's suppose I have the thousands of the application, hundred of the application in my company. And if I am not using the SAML, so each application when I'm going to access, they are going to ask me the credentials. So one application access, they will ask the username and password, right? Second application I'm going to use, they are going to ask me username and the password. Third application I'm going to use, they are going to ask me the username and the password. Fourth, they are going to ask me username and the password. So based on that, they are going to keep asking me the username and the password, and based on that, I have to put always. But if I'm going to use SAML, once I authenticated, my whole app is going to show in the list. Let me show you how it is going to, just giving the examples. Let me show you. So let's suppose I am logging in the Okta. So this is my Azure based IDP. They have a lot of applications. If you just go for the enterprise application, let me show you. So Microsoft Extranet, and let me go here. Let me see if I have access, manage, and these are the enterprise applications. So these are the Zscaler based enterprise application has been mapped, but you are going to find, if I just click in the new application, see, we have the lot of cloud based application. We have the AWS based application, we have the Google based application, we have the Oracle based applications, we have the SAP based application. See, we have the box based application. So these, let's suppose my company owning all the applications. So once time I log into the box.com, I have to put the credential. If I log into Cisco Webex, I have to put the credentials. If I'm logging the Adobe, I have to put the credentials. Microsoft Office, put the credentials. Salesforce, I put the credentials. ServiceNow, I have to put the credentials. Workplace from Meta, I need to put the credentials. Workday, I need to put the credentials. Zscaler Private Access, Zoom, every application required the credentials. But if I'm using the SAML, you just have to log in one portal. You're just going to be authenticated, and now your job has been done. You click any of the application, they are going to open without any prompting the username and password. This is how simple thing is going to happen. So this is the beauty of the SAML, and this is how SAML is going to make your life easy. Similar, you can see if I talk about Okta, it's also kind of the IDP, means identity provider. You can see they have also a lot of application. You can see keep rolling, you are going to get a lot of application. So if applications are going to added by your company, 1,000 application from these all, and you want to authenticate, you just have to take the services and you are going to authenticate. So this is how game changer SAML come in a picture. So this is just going to validate once, and you can just access n number of your complete applications. SAML is basically based on the XML, right, base standard, and that enables the IDP provider to just, means any IDP provider like Okta, Azure. We have a lot of IDP provider. I'll show you later stage. Probably, let me see if I have these slides available here. So if you see here, probably let me show you. See, so here we have the identity provider, ADFS. We have Okta. We have, this is the Azure, right? We have the ping, you have the sale point. So a lot of IDP providers are there. You can use any of the IDP provider. They are going to help you and in terms of the validation of your users, right? So they are going to integrate with IDP, and based on that, you're going to be authenticated and you're just going to access the application. And application must be, access before, after the authenticating with the SAML. Now, at least you guys have the understanding about the SAML. Let's discuss about what is a SCIM. Okay. So what is a SCIM? So first I written here, SCIM is the system for the cross domain identity management. Means we have the multiple domain, cross domain. Let's suppose one domain for the IT, one domain for the HR, one domain for the marketing, one domain for the like sales. So if I have to do the cross domain identity management, means in regard of the what domain user is setting, what application they are accessing, right? I want to maintain all the user informations in a single place, single pane of glass. And based on that, I want to do the automations. I want to do the provisioning. I want to do the deprovisioning. I want to do the synchronizations about the identity information across the system domains, right? So how it is going to happen? With the help of SCIM, it is going to happen. So just take an example how SCIM is going to work. I'm just giving the very layman example. Just think your company is very large, right? And if your company is very large, there are daily basis lot of new joiner are going to be join the company, and also at the same time some users are leaving from your company. So if one user is going to join the company, right? So you have to do the provisioning for their access. Might be he need access for the Workday, might be he need access for the Google, might be he need access for the Meta, might be access for Box.com. Lot of application might be you have to access. So if you have to do and give the access, SAML is just authenticating, but some place you have to do the configuration, like you have to do the configuration to just give the application access to that particular user. Then only it is possible SAML is going to authenticate. But before SAML, you have to do the provisioning of the user. So that provisioning, if you do the manually, it will take a lot of time. So that scheme is going to come in a picture to just automate your provisioning. Means any new employee is going to join your company, it is simply going to provision them, and based on that provisioning, the access is going to be applied. Let's suppose I am the group of the particular IT department. So I am the L3 engineer, and the another engineer going to join as the L3 engineer. So he is going to join my group and he is going to get the similar kind of access. So that is the scheme responsibility, to just give the right access to the right user. At the same time, if the user is leaving the company, scheme is going to deprovision that particular user informations. And also at the same time, it is going to synchronize the user, right, for all database. So basically, in short, if I talk about the scheme, so scheme system for the cross-domain identity management is again an open standard, right, protocol, which basically allow platforms, different platform we have, different like application we have, to control which user are able to access which service provider, like SaaS applications. Service provider is SaaS application, like Workday is one service provider. Zscaler is another service provider. Prisma is another service providers. Like you can see, right? We have the lot of service provider. Whatever you see in this particular, you just think about these are the all service providers. Cisco, Webex means these are the different domains belong to different company, and they are actually producing their application as a service provider, as a SaaS application, so that can be accessed by the different companies based on their requirement for the authentication, right? So I hope it is just going to use to create user, provision user, delete user, add user, and this is in short scheme is there, right? So now let's move further. We understand about this LDAP, we understand about the hosted database, we understand SAML, we understand about the identity proxy. We'll discuss more in the little stage. Let's move next. So as I explained, LDAP authentication is just for the Microsoft AD. It is going to be created based on the AD creations, right? We have to do the provisioning, we have to do the authentications, we have some benefits as well. So if you see about the AD, at least we have the overview. And if you want to do the deep dive how this is going to be provision, authentication, and how the benefits is going to happen. So you have to understand. If I talk about the provisioning, how provisioning is going to happen. So user can be created, groups can be created, department can be created. Likewise, I show you here. Let me show you again. So if I want to create the users for the Zscaler C, so I have the users, I have the departments, I have the groups. So all are here, and based on that, I can provision my ADs, right? So at the same time, it will automatically sync to your AD servers, right? And also Zscaler is going to deactivate users that do not appear in the LDAP. Means the user are not going to appear in the LDAP while doing the sync process. The Zscaler is going to deactivate. The synchronizations from the AD server to your Zscaler, that can be happen on daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. Even you want to do right now on demand, it can be done by as per your wish as well. So this is how provisioning is going to happen. Very easy to do the provisioning. Just import the data in the Excel file, CSV file, and upload that data, and it is going to provision. Just to have the reachability from the AD server to the particular Zscaler with the IDP, right? Now about the authentication. Once we have the provisioning, we also talk about the authentications. So LDAP query is going to send, always LDAP query is going to be sent to the Active Directory. Zscaler also send the LDAP bind to the directory, that is Active Directory, to validate the user password and the authenticity. We will see how the step-by-step packet flow is going to happen. We'll see that. I'm just showing that how this is authentication is going to happen. So there is some kind of the query and binding is going to exchange between the user and the Zscaler, and based on that, they are going to be authenticated, right? So if I'm going to use the benefits, means if I'm going to talk about the benefits while using this particular LDAP authentication. So what is the benefits we have? So basically, you don't have to migrate your authentication services in the different infrastructure. If you are already a the customer who have the AD server in your network and you want to integrate that, so you just use your existing authentication infrastructure and integrate with the Zscaler. This is the most important benefits. Means you don't have to worry about any kind of authentication. These are first benefits. So you are going to leverage the same infrastructure and you are going to use that. User data can be synchronized periodically and on demand. So periodic, you want to synchronize the data, that is also possible. Password never can be expired, leave existing directory server. So you can there, if you little bit aware about the AD server, we have the lot of way to do the password configuration as well. So password never leave the existing directory server, like you just can change, you can set the never expired, you can set first login change. So a lot of options available. So password basis, we have the lot of things. So we have the provisioning way, we have the authentication way for the LDAP. At the same time, we have to talk about the challenges. If I'm going to integrate my AD server with the Zscaler, so what are the challenges are going to happen here, and what key challenges I have to keep in my mind? So if my AD server hosted in my company or database, and in between I have the firewall, and then I have the Zscaler connectivity via the internet, right? GIA tenant. So firewall rule must be configured to allow the communication from AD to Zscaler. That is additional work we have to do. That means because Zscaler is somewhere in the internet, right? Your traffic must be forwarded via the IPsec GRE to just reach to Zscaler tenant. So your firewall rule must be configured and it must be processed. Then it is going to be reachable. You must deploy the Zscaler authentication bridge to avoid the firewall rules, but require the management. Means what does mean? So there are a process authentication bridge, right? Let me show you. So you must have to, deploy while doing this provisioning. So if I just go here, so here is authentication bridge. You can see that. So they are talking about this. So you just have to enable this, deploy this where certificate and everything is going to require. So additional stuff you have to do that. So your challenge is going to be more complicated while doing this all. So this is how the integration is going to be happen, provisioning, benefits, and you have the lot of authentication method you are going to get, but same time you have the challenges. So this is how LDAP is going to be look like and how the provisioning, authentication, and benefits and challenge are going to talk about that. Now let's talk about how the packet flow is going to be happen when I'm going to integrate the LDAP. Means I have my own AD server, could be my based on the cloud, that is ADFS, right? Based on the Azure AD, or might be in-house AD. So when the first I create the user, I create the department, I create the groups. So this must be synced with the Zscaler tenant. This is the first criteria. If it is not going to sync, probably you are not going to do anything. So database, whatever you're going to create, that must be going to sync there. And after sync, only you can do the rest of the work. So once database has been synced, means I created there is user test1, test2, might be test3, multiple users. So those are going to be visible here, similar to the this particular tenant. You can see. So we have the lot of users, and these all users are synced here. How it is has been synced? Because we have the sync the user group, right? So that's why you can see the department, we have the group, everything is available because we just have created based on the our LDAP. So this is going to be done based on that particular settings. Once this all has been done, so what is the first request in terms of the packet processing is going to happen? So let's suppose some user want to access the YouTube, right? So once he want to access the YouTube, he have to follow the packet flow. If he is not going to follow the packet flow, YouTube is not going to be accessible. So let me show you again the packet flow. So you might be heard or went through my packet flow video as well. So anytime you want to access any of the application, so before you just go and check the policy, you check the connection tracking, you check the any kind of the reverse traffic, forward traffic, you have to do the authentication. If there is no authentication, connection tracking ID is not going to be assigned. You are not going to access any of the application. So this is the first step. So user must be authenticated. If it is not going to be authenticated, application is not going to be accessible. Simple principle of the Zscaler. So you can see here, the first request is going to be initiated from the computer. The request is going to receive or intercept by the Zscaler GIA tenant. Once it is going to request, GIA is going to ask the username because all database is available here. Database is available. We already synced that. So he will provide the username detail. Then he will request you put your password. So password is also going to be provided. Then based on the password request, it will going to send the password. So in first 5 packet, you can see the request went for accessing the application. That is the first thing user have to authenticate. Then username requested, he sent the username. His password requested, he sent the password. Now, once these all are going to receive by the your GIA tenant, he is going to reach out to your AD server with the bind request over LDAP protocol. So they're going to use the protocol. First is like you have the 636. That is the, sorry, let me write it. 636. That is your SSL base, encryption protocol they are going to use. And one is we are going to use LDAP is 349, I believe. Let me check. I just forgot. So there are two protocol. One is the encrypted, one is the non-encrypted. So should be LDAP protocol number, right? So let me see. 389, sorry, not 49, 389. This is the, like your uh, plain text protocol, non-secure, and this is your secure protocol. So based on that, the user are going to be authenticated. If you're using the secure one, then you have to require the SSL certificate and all, and based on that, the authentication is going to be happen, right? So till 5, it is going good. Then it is going to send the bind request. And this bind request is going to receive by the AD server. And AD server is going to response your bind. Bind request is going to carry multiple information, username, password, right? Some hashing and all. And based on that, if user are going to be, means the AD is going to respond that particular bind request, then GCC is going to be authenticated. Means your application. What is GCC application? Let's suppose in my PC, I have the GCC. So this app is going to be authenticated. And if this app is going to be authenticated, let me open the app. So this app is going to be authenticated. If this app is not going to be authenticated, you cannot connect. Right now it's at off. So this app is going to be authenticated, and then you are eligible to access finally websites. So this is how the packet flow is going to be happen for the LDAP to the AD server. I hope it is clear to everyone. Please let me know. Right? And then finally you are going to access the any application. This is the simplest way, but this is how the packet processing is going to be happen. Clear? So let me move to the next thing. After LDAP, what next we have? So after LDAP, we have the next thing, that is my next flow. If I have the hosted database, then how the authentication is going to happen for the hosted database? So again, in the hosted database, if I am going to perform the authentication, we have the similar kind of the provisioning, similar kind of authentication in the benefits and the challenges. Just I have to upload database. I have to create database in my GIA tenant. I cannot show you because I don't have the right access, else I can create even database here as well. So in this case, unlike to the LDAP, unlike to the SAML and SCIM, you cannot sync your AD or might be the IDPs to just, manage your authentication. You have to create your local database on the GIA tenant itself. And this is the key function of the hosted database. So whatever you have to create your all the features on your means username, password, whatever you have, that all is going to be created on the GIA tenant, and then that is going to be validated. Most important thing, if I'm going to use this hosted database, there is no SSO is going to be applicable. Means if I want to enable, see here, with this method, if I want to enable the hosted database, single sign-on feature is not going to be there. Even LDAP can be possible, SAML can be possible, but here it is not possible, right? So you can see provisioning, it's very easy. Just configure manually on the administration portal, GIA portal, right? You can even export, import CSV file, same thing what I'm talking. Means if I have a database, I can just import database on my GIA tenant. I can create manually. Authentication is going to happen based on the cookies with redirect, right? Configuration authentication interval only once week, every session, daily and custom. These all options are available. Whatever you want to the authentications. And also benefits, it's a simple to deploy, easy. It's especially for the POC and all. No integration with the external services like LDAP, no integration required. SAML, no integration required. Useful for the small deployment. If I have the small company, 5, 10 user, 100 users, so it's okay. My IT team going to manage that. User can reset the password in this option, but in SAML and all, user cannot reset the password, right? Password expiry and complexity are supported. This also. What are the challenges we have while using this hosted database? So challenges, if I talk about the manual creation and configuration of the account, automation is not going to happen. Sync is not going to happen, and it is not scalable at all. Means if I have the large organization and I want to deploy this, this is not possible, right? So similarly, if I talk about the packet flow, if I simply talk about the packet flow, so you can see here, it's a very simple thing. we have the hosted database, which is going to create it on this particular JA tenant. So request is going to be happen from the client. Once JA tenant is enabled, see, so it is going to request you. Once you are going to send the request, right? Based on your request, the reply is going to be come and it is going to ask what is your username. And once you give the username, it is going to ask the password. And because the database is locally on the JA tenant, so it's going to authenticate it because it's going to match your username and whatever the username available on the database of the JA tenant and the password, then done. And then you just validated, like CA validated your means. What is CA? CA is central authority. Okay. So probably you just have to know we have the central authority. This is the brain of the Zscaler, which is known as the brain of Zscaler, especially GIA or GPU whatever. Central authority. So let me show you how it is going to look. So central authority have the each and every details. See, so this is my central authority CA, not the like root CA. It's not like so. This central authority have the entire database where my authentication request is going to there, and based on that, I'm going to authenticate it and I'm going to validate it. Clear? So based on that, I'm going to OK and my validation is going to happen and then my application is going to be access. So I hope we understand the SAML, we understand the scheme, we understand about the what is the basically LDAP based provisioning and what is my basically hosted database provisioning. Now we have to discuss a lot of things, right? We have to discuss most about SAML and SCIM. And if I talk about the SAML and SCIM, we have to do the deep dive. Means similarly, we have to understand what is the step-by-step packet flow for the SAML, what is the step-by-step packet for the SCIM as well. So I'm thinking to cover this because already we are about to close 1 hour. So we have to discuss a lot of things. So if I just going to complete, it is going to take almost okay, so we have to have another sessions, right? It's going to take another more hours, right? So let us stop it here, okay? So in next step, I'll talk more about the scheme and the SAML, right? And identity provider, because we have to understand what is identity provider, what is service provider. Then we just have to understand how this all feature are going to integrate with this particular zero trust exchange and where these all come. So this is the first place whenever any user want to connect, this is the first step where this is going to be integrated. And based on this integrated, your identity, scheme, SOAR, EDR, and MDM, mobile device management, that all is going to be integrated. Authentication is going to happen, then only the rest of thing is going to work. So we'll discuss in next session, guys. I hope this is going to be useful for everyone. And in part 2, I'll just conclude every theory, part 3 and part 4. Even it is going to be series of 6, because I just want to cover entire IDP in next 4 to 5 hours and with the lab as well. So right now you can see in this lab, probably you can see we have the AD integration. Here we just go and we can integrate the AD with this particular, let me show you. If I want to go, you can see here I have the provisioning. And if I just go for the enterprise applications, here I have the provisioning for the Zscaler SAML provisioning. That is for my, how can I can just, yeah, let me just, so we have this Zscaler. This is for the SSO. If I log in for the digital experience, that is going to log in. This is a private access, and this is my internet access. So these are application has been provided by the SAML. In scheme provisioning, if you want to see scheme provisioning, so you just have to go in the. Let me go here. Let me go. Yeah. So we have the provisioning logs. So whatever the scheme related things are going to be provisioned, that is going to give all things detail here, and you're going to get all provisioning logs available for it to the scheme, and whatever the attribute and anything you're going to configure, that is going to be available. So if you go for the sign-in logs, so you're going to get, right now there is nothing, so I cannot show you anything. Yeah, right now you can, yeah, we have at least log, right? So you can see different location. It's basically the US based location. And I want to see like what IP and all, you can see they are available all. So I believe we are good, right? And if I want to add any application, let's suppose I want to search Zscaler. So I can just simply go and search it. And I want to provision like Zscaler private access. So we just have to follow this provisioning. We don't have the right access, so you cannot provision it. But yes, I have the lab guide also, how it is going to process by steps. And you simply go for the Google and you want to see like Azure and GIA provisioning, right? So if you see Azure and GIA, so we are going to get the step-by-step documentation as well. Everything is, if you want to download this PDF is going to download it, and everything is written here. You want to see that. So you can see this lab guide is going to be give the entire flavor authentication for how this is going to happen, what is the step by step you have to deploy, where you have to click. So everything is written here, right? And you just have to follow the steps. I just cover in my entire provisioning setups. You're going to get entire thing, how the provisioning is going to happen, how you're going to get the entity ID, URL, reply URL, sign on URL, what does mean. So we'll discuss all, and then finally what the step, how the spam certificate is going to be downloaded. So we'll also understand this lab part. And finally, once you go in the GIA portal, then what all option you have to do to just deploy this particular things. So we have a lot of things. I want to add in the IDP at the GIA tenant. So even you can see how the step-by-step authentication setting, IDP setting is there. And then you have to integrate with the SAML portal URL. You have to put the attribute name, SAML certificate upload. You have to do that. You have to put your domain name, right? And then you have to just generate the some JSML, some self provisioning like steps, how it is going to happen, SAML integration. Then you are going to find the scheme integration as well in later skills. So that you can see this is scheme. So you want to do the provisioning, so you have to go enterprise applications, and whatever the enterprise application you want to do that, and based on that you have to just select your domains. So here you want to go that, and you want to go the enterprise applications right now. Let me figure out manage. So overview. So right now it's not showing, but definitely we'll get that. Okay. Based on that, you can just find your provisioning details for the scheme as well, and you're going to get this sacred token and all. So these token are going to be available in the authentication setting. If I go there, so if I go in the identity provider, so let me show you, just I'm showing the overview. You guys are going to get entire thing in this lab. So you can see there's sacred tokens and URL. So you just have to use this URL, and you want to generate. You cannot generate because we don't have the right access. So bearer token is going to be there, and this information, see the tenant URL secret token. So you just have to get that information. You have to test the connection. Then your scheme and your SAML is going to be integrated. Then you want to verify your attributes, whatever you're creating, that is syncing on GIA or not. So you can do the follow the different steps, and you can just check that also. So this is going to be very useful, guys, right? And trust me, patientfully you have to learn step by step. And in this series, you are going to get entire things. Already content is available for the entire Zscaler, GPA and JDX. But still you want to learn step by step on the advanced level, because recently Zscaler had changed the certification as well. So these particular things are aligned with the latest certification for the advanced level, not the essential level. So probably it is going to give a lot of value addition in your current knowledge, whatever you have already. You have the knowledge of Zscaler or not, or you were just planning to learn Zscaler. So these all are going to get or give the lot of insight about the Zscaler product. So thank you so much. In next session, probably not today, I'll discuss tomorrow. Let's plan on this weekend, and I'll conclude this all things scheme and SAML in very detail. Once we done these all things, we'll cover in the lab parts, and these lab parts are going to be also in detail. What I'm going to cover in the lab part, I'll just do the integration GIA with Okta. This is the first integration. GIA with Azure, right? So because we have the two famous IDP, right? Identity provider, Okta and the Azure. So we'll have to know about these two deployment method. When I just want to do with the Okta integration, you can see like right now I have the Okta as well. So let me show you. So that's why I here also log in with the Okta. So where is my Okta? Yeah, this is Okta. So you should know how the even the Okta is going to be integrated and how the Azure is going to integrate it, because the most popular integration for the IDP. Second thing, for GPA. So GPA also we have to do the similar thing. GPA also we have to do the integration. GPA integration with Okta and GPA with will do with the Azure. So I hope this 4 video plus theoretical concept, like what does mean the hosted database, what does means LDAP integration, and what is my SAML and SCIM, and what they are going to do the integration part, and then actual lab. And with this L integration, we learn about the more about the SAML and SCIM integration and provisioning, certification and everything. So this is going to be useful. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. See you again in the next session. Bye bye. Take care.